Welcome back to Coloring Through the Bible. My name is Keegan Harkins, and today we're taking a look at Moses in front of the burning bush. It's Exodus 3 and 4, and I love these chapters because Moses is called by God to do something wonderful and epic and powerful, something that he's been remembered for thousands of years. And yet he totally felt like he was not qualified. So, which is totally ridiculous. If you watched the video on Exodus chapter 2, you'll remember that Moses had been educated in Pharaoh's home. He had received the best education, not just smarts, but an education in diplomacy, on leading people. He, according to Josephus, was the commander of Egypt's army in the campaign against Ethiopia, and he used intelligence and diplomacy to make a peace treaty between Ethiopia and Egypt. So not only is he qualified, he's way more qualified than he thinks he is, but he's been trained his entire life for what God's called him to do. But so have we. And maybe we read these two chapters on Moses balking at what God is calling him to do, and we think, Moses, come on, you know that you can do this. But my goodness, I do it too. And I'm sure I'm not the only one. Every single one of us is created with a purpose. I mean, that's what Jeremiah 1:5 says. It says, before you were born, I knew you, and I called you according to my purpose. God knows who we are. He knows our limitations. He knows what we're good at. He knows what we struggle with. It's all part of who we are. And who we are is who he chooses to use. In all of our flaws and our imperfections, he chooses to use us. It's easy to see with Moses, but we do the same thing. But I love the response that God gives Moses, and sometimes I have to remind myself of God's response to Moses saying, oh, I have a stuttering problem, that kind of excludes me, I can't do this, can't do that. He says all these lists of why he can't do what God's calling him to do. And God responds to him with the absolute best response. In Exodus 4:11, God says, who gave man his mouth? Who makes him deaf or mute? Who gives him sight or makes him blind? Is it not I, the Lord? I love that response. God knows what he's doing. He knows everything about us. And when he places an opportunity in our path, and he calls us to go somewhere, he calls us to share, he knows who we are. He knows everything about us. And yet he calls us anyway. So we can't use that as an excuse. We can't be like Moses and say, well, I'm not qualified for this. God knows what he's doing. He created us exactly the way we were meant to be created. And he filled our life with opportunities to learn, training for what he's called us to do. Every part of our life story makes us who we are. And every part of who we are is who God chooses to use. We don't have to be perfect. We just have to trust that God knows what he's doing. And that's why I love Exodus 4 and 5. I'd really encourage you to just spend some time reading it, and maybe even write that response from God on a sticky note. And then every time you doubt that God can use you, that you can do what God's called you to do, take it out and just read God's words where he's like, who made you? Who made you the way you are? It was me. God knows what he's doing. He knows who we are. He chooses to use us anyway. And if he calls us, he'll help us do it. So let's trust him. I hope you've been encouraged today, and I look forward to seeing you tomorrow. Have a truly blessed day.